rise in the day, the ethanol product also becomes more dangerous because heat allows it to become more flammable. If a spark is in that area, it can cause a fire. Those fires can become corrosive and carry vapors, and those vapors will travel in the air, which makes it very dangerous. If ethanol comes in contact with a person, it becomes dangerous and an irritant to their skin or to their eyes. So we wanted to make sure that people in the area that may not know what was going on were safe, and we quickly started those evacuation processes. What we were able to recover is 5,000 gallons of ethanol off of the tanker, the fuel truck that was impacted. I don't have an exact number of how many gallons got onto the ground, or how many gallons were spilled. We are working to recover that information. Our crews, though, do know how ethanol worked. So once that kind of river sort started to flow, they allowed the ethanol to do what it does and allowed it to dissipate on its own. So later on, you'll be able to see there's stains on the road from where the ethanol had hit the ground, and then it dissipated on its own and kind of evaporated as ethanol does. But there is a very strong smell of that gas that still remains in the air, and that's why we did have to make those evacuations earlier. That product did kind of get into some of the storm drains that were in the area. Our hazmat crews were called to the scene, and they performed some of the techniques that they usually do with damming and diking the area to prevent some runoff of that product into the storm drains that were nearby. But there was inevitably some of that product that did get into some of those storm drains. And then there was an environmental crew that did come to the scene as well. They're still on the scene, and they were also able to pump out some of the ethanol that did also get into those storm drains. There are lots of agencies involved in this response, as you can imagine, and those agencies are going to be on the scene for quite a while. There are no injuries to report, thankfully. Everyone that was in the area was able to get evacuated that needed to be evacuated. There's no injuries, again, to any personnel from any agency. The driver of the train as well as the driver of the fuel truck are both fine. No injuries to either one of them, so we're very grateful to be able to report that there's no injuries. One of the techniques that was performed was an offloading technique. The tanker that was pierced, we had to offload, or our hazmat crews had to offload the remaining product from that tanker to another trailer, and that is a very specialized process that our hazmat crews go through training for, and so we're very grateful to have our crews trained in those techniques here, and so they were able to safely offload, again, about 5,000 gallons of ethanol to another trailer, and then that trailer will take that product to the destination that it was intended to go to originally.
Do you know if anyone, there were any charges filed with either train or the
I'm not sure, but I do know that there will be likely investigations. When we are done here on the scene, we'll turn the scene over to CSX, and they will be able to handle that part of any investigations for charges or figure out who's at fault and things of that nature. That area leads back to a facility. I believe that the fuel tank or driver was headed towards a facility that crosses those tracks. So that may have been why the tanker was crossing the tracks, but I can't speak to why the incident occurred. I believe there are some railroad crossing warning signs and things of that nature, but I'm sure there will be a full investigation by CSX and other agencies involved as to the cause of the accident and how it can be prevented in the future.
So what was going on with the fire engine, the water,
Yeah, so our hazmat crews have things like foam in this instant that they use for products to suppress some of the other triggers, so to speak, that could cause things to spark and then create a fire. So they would use things like foam to put on top of a product so that spark is not able to get to the product to then create a fire and create a larger hazard. In this instance, there was some things up near the train where the actual collision occurred, where they did use some foam to suppress some of those things. But as far as where the actual where the actual flow of the product occurred, they decided to just let that dissipate on its own, and they did not use that on that.
So is the pump truck, what is the purpose of the pump truck?
These are all basically safety and backup mechanisms should something occur. So right now what's happening at the actual collision site is they are working to remove the tanker off of the railroad tracks, but it still has some remnants of product, and so there's always a chance that there could be a spark inside of that tanker. So we still have our crews on standby in case there is a spark and that there is a fire. Gratefully, when we got here this morning, there was no fire, there was no smoke, and so we didn't have to kind of do a twofold response where we were also working a fire on top of an ethanol spill, which would have made this incident a very much larger hazard. But they are on standby at this point just in case there is something like that to occur. It could have been a lot worse, and gratefully our personnel responded very quickly to reduce that from becoming a larger hazard incident. And we're just grateful that kind of everything lined up this time to where it could be mitigated to be a smaller incident, and everything just worked out to where there were no injuries and we aren't working a fire on top of this spill. It was flowing down, and I'm sure you'll be able to gain access later, but you'll literally be able to see stains on the road, and those stains will show you kind of a path for where that ethanol was just streaming down the road, which is why we immediately went to evacuate this area 1,000 feet in each direction, because the safety of those in this neighborhood and any neighborhood is top priority. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to take a couple pictures of it because it's very weird. Like the stains, yeah. And you probably be able to go up there later, but like you can. Oh, sorry.
Go live in a little bit.
No, yes, and I will run off with them like I've done that before.